That being said, we're going to move on to reports, President's reports. I would ask Tom Jacobs to come up and speak to the board.
Oh, wow, that's how you guys look.
Yeah, how does it feel over there?
Dear board colleagues, Superintendent Skinkis, RB students, teachers, parents, administrators, I am here to offer a few brief parting thoughts related to my departure from the board. Those thoughts revolve around empathy, balance, and courage. So first, let me just express what an amazing privilege it has been for me to be able to serve with you on behalf of the entire RB community. It is with really true gratitude that I look back on the past 2 years. And those 2 years, as we all know, have been quite unexpected and challenging all of us to maybe think differently and more broadly. And so in this first part, I'm actually, I think presumably there's some cameras rolling, and I think that's really good in the sense that with an open spot becoming available on the board, I'd actually like to almost do a little bit of a commercial for what it means to be on that side, sitting behind that table. Because this is a school, right? This is about education. And so when you get elected and you run for things and you're really passionate, of course, when you have the privilege to get elected, it is now your duty to discharge that responsibility. And that, again, in and of itself is an incredible opportunity. However, the aspect that doesn't get talked about so much is that when you join this community in this active role, of course, you are a student yourself. And so I look back on those 2 years with great humility because I realized that in the ongoing lifelong quest of continuing to learn, something we try to instill in our students, that of course when you're on that side of the table, you get the education in a way that you probably didn't necessarily thought you might get. And I think this is incredibly valuable. And the reason I would sort of summarize this part of my comments under empathy is that I believe that the critical difference between being a responsible board member and potentially a really valuable board member is the topic of empathy. If we have learned anything through these trying times where levels of passion and opinion and fear and concern were on display every day, I think what I've learned behind those blue tablecloths is that when you try to understand first and then be understood, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's quite literally empathy to put yourself in the position of whoever is in front of you or at this table or in the school, because the concerns are all valid. And too frequently we jump to conclusions and we push for our own opinions and we want to get our way. And that's part of the game. That comes with the job. But again, all I can say to members of the community that might be watching, it is an unbelievable learning experience that I will treasure forever. The second thing is that I would like to advocate to all of you sitting board members to really keep a focus on balance. And when I say that, it relates to two things specifically. We did work together on the mission statement, and we have now basically codified a balanced approach to education. And I can't recite it, however the 49 words or however many it was, But the part that I remember very specifically is that the balance between academic achievement, which again is sort of tends to be in the foreground, but the human experience and lifelong learning are much more than that. And so academics, athletics, and the arts. And so I'd actually like to second the comments that were made by the prior speaker on behalf of a robust arts education. And of course, I have a slight bias on this since I'm in the creative field as well. But a full and fulfilled life has everything to do with a commitment and appreciation of the arts. So I'd like to suggest to you, if I may, to enact what we now have actually enshrined in the mission statement. And the second one about balance is that, again, relating to the open spot on the board, is that I would argue balance is maybe, or should maybe be one of the key criteria. Hopefully you're getting lots and lots of application. Nothing would make me happier than if there were 12 people trying to vie for this spot. And if we are so lucky, I would argue that the board makeup, the design of the board, is something that would be prudent for the future of the school. We currently have a really robust representation of educators on the board, which I think is appropriate. I won't have a vote, but I would think we're covered well in that. Ask yourself the question, what other aspects that more truly and fully represents the diverse community that we represent might we want to be looking for? And lastly, I have to say something about courage, because that is another experience that I've had, is that it certainly takes courage to run and to fulfill this duty that we are asked with. But I would argue that we actually need more of it. The times that we're headed into are going to require us to have more of it, not less. And so frequently, my experience is when you start feeling uncomfortable, you're actually leading. So to all of you, and I've been in that seat again, sometimes, you know, you sort of wonder, should I say something or not? And now that I'm free to say whatever I like, I'll just double down on this and say, when in doubt, please say it. And I have to say to the students and parents and community members who had the courage to come before the board, you may not have any idea how meaningful that is when you actually speak to representatives that are trying to make prudent decisions. That takes courage, and whether that is a student that shows up here and makes a passionate statement for equity, a student of color who shares personal and probably painful experiences, I take great inspiration from that. I would encourage teachers to have the courage. An innovative teacher, with or without the endorsement of the union, should have the courage and come here and talk about what they feel passionate about. A parent who maybe passionately disagrees with the board or some policy should have the courage to come here. So it has been a true privilege to serve with all of you on the Board of Education. On behalf of the entire RB community, may the school and may equitable, innovative, and inclusive education flourish under your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. So I would just want to say quickly before you get up, thank you very much for your thoughtful comments, and I think you've indicated tonight the way you've represented and held yourself for these last 2 years on the board as a thoughtful professional who really has taken to heart the tasks of the Board of Education. So on behalf of myself, and I think many of us, thank you very much for your service.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you.
Brought so much to the room. And, I learned a lot from you, so.
Thank you very
In a
much.
positive way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Are you staying for the rest of the meeting? That's the real question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So following that, just some housekeeping for us. Mr. Jacobs' vacancy became effective on July 1st. We have 60 days under state statute to fill that vacancy. Dr. Skinkis and I met with council just yesterday. We were notified just over the weekend of Tom's decision. And we did look through some dates and calendar and made sure that had some information to share with the group tonight. I want some feedback on how we proceed. We do have a application. That's a standard application, not dissimilar in many ways to what the students on the Board of Ed filled out to be Board of Education members. I would suggest that we post that tomorrow, which is July 14th. We give people through the 26th to apply. That gives kind of 2 weekends. It's a little bit less than 2 weeks, but I think it's a good window of time. I would suggest that we ask Mary Ann to do a doodle poll and aiming for that first week of August for interviews. We do interview all the candidates or all the applicants, or we can interview all the applicants, I should say. The interviews would take place in closed session. We would have to come up with some type of interview questions and a scoring rubric to use for those candidates. And to mirror what Tom was saying, I hope we get quite a few candidates. 12 might be a very long night, but I think, if we have 12 applicants, we have 12 applicants, right? Following that, and then again, this is sort of an idealized timeline, we would be able to agree on a new colleague by our meeting scheduled for the 10th. The challenge we're up against is that 60-day calendar the clock is ticking already, so we do need to fill this by the 26th, I want to say. 27th, excuse me, of August. So that being said, that was the logistics of it. I would open it up for discussion, comments, and feedback on how to move forward.
We do need to, I think that was an excellent summary of the dates. I think the one question we asked the attorney that what you didn't touch on, it has to be done in person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It cannot be done on Zoom.
Right. So when we ask for availability, this does have to be an in-person closed session discussion.
And we need 4 people for quorum.
Absolutely, yes.
So at least 4 people have to be available on any one night for the interviews, in person.
Correct. And my suggestion is if someone is not able to be here, we'll have like I said, a scoring rubric that we could share with everyone. And if we need to schedule a follow-up discussion, we could do that at a subsequent point. Although, again, ideally, I'd like us to take care of it in one window of time. But thank you, that was a good point.
Is there any way this, outside of
Yeah.
it's obviously been mentioned in this meeting, but and on the website, but how will we be working to get this more publicly?
No, that's a great question.
We'll put it on the website. So we were talking about communication strategy, similar to like the little blast I sent out yesterday about the mask will be required and some of those things. We'll post it on the website. We'll send it to Instagram and Facebook, which
Okay.
we have over 800 followers on both. So.
Okay.
But I would also think that we all should use our individual Rolodexes and
Yeah.
network as much as possible.
My question is, how public can I be?
Yeah. Well, it's
Absolutely.
public.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so the vacancy is public at this point, and the application itself will be available tomorrow sometime. And I think we could ask that you would share the application with everyone on the board so that we have it
Yeah, I think
ready
you're
at
going to get a
email.
copy of that tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Did I miss anything, Mona? You think of?
No, I think we
Okay.
got it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So